How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the channel. As always, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. It helps out, means a ton. You guys get plenty of fun stuff, not just Jujutsu Kaisen. We cover plenty of manga on the channel, so stick around, check it out, see if anything else catches your interest. But with that being said, we got to get into it because we are finally into the quarterfinals of the Curse Technique tournament. So, for our first matchup, we have the winners of Group A, that being Idol Transfiguration and the Cloning Technique. And for the second matchup, we will have the winners of Group B, that being Blood Manipulation and Cursed Spirit Manipulation. So, getting right into it with Idol Transfiguration and the Cloning Technique. Idol Transfiguration, it gives you the ability to heal yourself by changing the shape of your soul back to, well, I guess its original state, so you didn't take the damage. Good job, you healed. Nice. Anyway, it also gives you the ability to manipulate other people's souls to deal damage, transfigure them, to use them as your own weapons. They can do all kinds of weird stuff with, like, mixing and shaping people together to make isometric polymorphic somethings. Yeah, I don't know. They can do all kinds of weird stuff, make a bunch of weird things. They can also not just heal themselves by changing the shape of their soul, they can actually shapeshift their own body into all kinds of different things. We've seen the user of it in the series, Mahito. Remember, don't think about Mahito. These are completely blank slates that these techniques are attached to, just random person A, random person B, but you guys probably know that by now. Either way, we've seen Mahito change his body to just make a bunch of spikes randomly jut out. We've seen him go into little tiny chibi form. We saw him change his arm into this long, extending blade whip chain thing. Yeah, there's a lot you can do here, so it really does give you plenty of options to go with when it comes to, being in a fight. Cloning, I feel like it is a little bit more one trick, but that one trick is very impressive. It has even been stated to be a powerful technique, an impressive technique in the series itself, and at least in my eyes, it did barely manage to squeak by projection sorcery, just because of the fact that, well, you can hide your main body. You can stop yourself from taking a lot of damage if, like a smart person, you send the clones in first. Now, obviously, if you want to mess with somebody's head to a point where they wouldn't think your real body would be there, go ahead and throw your real body in there. I don't really know exactly why you would, because, well, the clones are just as strong as you are. They're basically an exact copy. But I don't think this does as good against Idol Transfiguration as it did against projection sorcery. Yes, it has a similar thing to where it can try and wear the other person out by making them deal with 4 other clones before getting to the original. It can wear people down, but with Idol Transfiguration, you have those transfigured humans you can use. You can heal yourself, so that whole battle of attrition thing isn't the best idea against somebody with Idol Transfiguration. They don't even need to have reverse curse energy to heal from the damage you inflict upon them. So yeah, you don't just want to run a battle of attrition by trying to wear somebody else out. Also, on top of this, with the whole body shaping thing, the whole blade, chain whip, stuff like that, there's plenty of range that Idol Transfiguration has. It's not a long range technique by any means, but it can stretch out to mid-range a little bit if it really wants to. This can cause a little bit of a problem for cloning sorcery because I think it matches up best against close range techniques where it's more difficult for the opponent to get to the original body, deal with all of the clones and the original. I actually think something like that bladed whip that Mahito turned his arm into is actually something very useful against somebody like the cloning technique. It's a very erratic weapon. It strikes at a pretty long range, and it is very deadly. And on top of all of this, let's just be entirely honest. If the cloning technique user does manage to get in close and does manage to start dealing some damage out to the Idol Transfiguration user, they're not exactly at an advantage when it comes to close range. This once again goes back to the body morphing. You can sit there and fight somebody, but when we have random fighter A and random fighter B on similar levels, yeah, you can go hand to hand. That's fine. They're going to be similar to you, and then what do you do when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a spike comes out of their chest and straight into your chest? There's all kinds of little things like that. Not that specifically. They can do plenty of other things that is very straightforward and not very sneaky for a sneak attack, I guess you could call it. That would be the best way to do it, at least. Yeah, there's plenty of things that an Idol Transfiguration can do in close and at medium range to try and wear down the cloning technique user and eventually get through all of the clones. So, for this first matchup, for the very first winner of the quarterfinals, we're giving it to Idle Transfiguration. But cloning technique definitely had a good shot, definitely had a good run. It is a very powerful technique. Do not sleep on it. But with all of that being said, we're moving on to the second fight of the quarterfinals, or at least quarterfinals A, and that is going to be, like I said, blood manipulation versus cursed spirit manipulation. I believe I mentioned this the first time I talked about cursed spirit manipulation, but it's a little bit of a difficult technique to put in a situation like this because it's really dependent on what cursed spirits you have at your disposal at that time. If you have 5 grade 4 curses at your disposal, you're probably not a very strong cursed spirit user. But if you have like 3 grade 1s, 40 grade 2s, 60 grade 3s, 1 special grade, and just a countless number of grade 4s, you're probably pretty impressive, and I don't really want to mess with you. So yeah, it has a really wide range on not just the user, but also the technique itself. But we're just going to kind of leave that on the back shelf. It doesn't really work the best for a scenario like this. We're just going to run with it and go with it. So, getting down to it, with Cursed Spirit and Blood Manipulation has been specifically mentioned in the series as a prized possession of the Kamo clan. That technique is very good and very much sought after. It's even stated that one of the reasons it is so prized and so cherished is the fact that it's good at close range, medium range, long range. It is extremely well-rounded. So this actually does make it a pretty good technique to go up against Cursed Spirit Manipulation, a technique where you're really going to have to do a lot of damage and put in a lot of work just to actually start getting some, benefit out of it, some returns out of it. Because if you're sitting here messing with these cursed spirits the entire time that the user is sending at you, well, you're not really doing anything to the user themselves. This is one of the good things about cursed spirit manipulation, just like the 10 Shadows. While yes, we a lot of times in the series see people doing a lot of hand-to-hand combat while they use that technique, those techniques are very good because a lot of times you really don't need to do a lot of hand-to-hand combat when you have them. Blood manipulation, on the other hand, is a technique that can directly and specifically increase your ability at hand-to-hand combat. Flowing red scale is something that the blood manipulation user can use to give themselves an advantage over the cursed spirit manipulation user. Remember the fact that we're on even playing fields outside of our curse technique? Well, if you can boost one of your attributes with your technique specifically, you can get the advantage in that situation. So if this does come down to a hand-to-hand combat scenario where blood manipulation would probably want it to be, yeah, blood manipulation is definitely going to have the advantage, but can blood manipulation get to the hand-to-hand combat scenario to get that advantage in the first place? Well, I actually think this works out really good for blood manipulation. You can kind of break it down into 2 sections. Moves that use up more of your blood, because if you use Convergence and Piercing Blood with blood from your own body, that blood is now outside of your body. And if it gets used up, it's used up. If it's gone, it's gone. You are not Choso, you are Noritoshi Kamo. Or at least the blank person is a person, not a cursed spirit. You have a finite amount of blood. So, moves that use blood, and then moves like Flowing Red Scale that do not use up more blood. You can use the vast catalogs of moves like Piercing Blood, Meteorite. You can use Blood Nets to set up Piercing Blood and all of these other things. There's that Supernova, the shotgun move. There's a bunch of stuff. I'm not even naming everything. I'm sure I'm forgetting about stuff. This doesn't matter. What matters is there's a ton of things that blood manipulation can do to get through the cursed spirits. After that, they can then switch over to Flowing Red Scale, because you have to think to get through all of the cursed spirits, or at least enough of them to get up close, you're going to have to run through at least a bit of your blood. You probably won't have as much left as you would like to have. So, being able to put those blood-using moves on the shelf for a little bit and still not give up your advantage, because in hand-to-hand, more of that advantage here in this scenario is going to come from Flowing Red Scale. You are just physically now superior to your opponent. Punch them in the face harder than they can punch you in the face with a good old healthy dose of cursed energy. That's the key to victory if you're going to get face to face here. That's what blood manipulation can do. They have a technique that they can save for the end, and if they really need to, I'm sure they can throw on a Piercing Blood or a supernova real quick to kind of seal the deal at the end after they can get up close and personal. So, with the fact that they have a variety of moves just for the cursed spirits, and then a couple moves that work really well for the user as well, I think this just works out good for blood manipulation, where they will actually, in a like 10 out of 10 level difficulty, be able to get the win here. If somebody says cursed spirit manipulation would definitely win, I would be cautious on the definitely part, just like I'm cautious on the blood manipulation winning. Either way, I think it's 10 out of 10 difficulty. If there are 10 matches between these two techniques in this scenario, I think blood manipulation is taking the majority, but I don't think blood manipulation is taking all 10 of those fights. Some of them are gonna go to cursed spirit manipulation. But, like I said, it just kind of works out good to where you can specialize for the curses and you can specialize for the user. A lot of other techniques really can't do that because they don't have the versatility, they don't have the long range, medium range, close range. All of these boxes are checked, and that's part of why blood manipulation is so good, and that kind of just got it the win. So, yeah, blood manipulation is going to move on to the semifinals. I say that like it's kind of surprising, I don't know, from the offset. My initial thought was cursed spirit over blood, but after I really started getting to thinking to everything, what can blood do to fight back and get the win? I think blood manipulation has a clearer, better path. Now, this might be possibly because of what I said about cursed spirit being kind of funky in this scenario, where you can go really strong with it, you can go really weak with it, you can go middle with it. Of course, you can do that for all techniques, but like I said, cursed spirit manipulation is a big one, because it's all dependent on what kind of curses you have. Yeah, the user is important too, how good are they, how smart are they, all of these things, but yeah, you can only do so much with a grade 4 curse. Not that that's what they had, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. Either way, I think blood can squeak it out here. Next time, we have Love Rendezvous versus the 10 Shadows, so that will be interesting considering we've already seen that fight play out in the series, but not between two individuals that were specifically even on every category besides technique. And after that, we will have the Limitless versus the Boogie Woogie. So yeah, needless to say, Boogie Woogie really has its work cut out for it. But I can't wait to get there. I hope I'll see you guys there. I'll see you next time. I'm out.